So this episode of Quick Tips is for the instance where you know a piece of music, you've learned it, you can play it, but you're not exactly sure what to do with it. This is something that happens to me maybe from time to time, where you want to make something better, the piece isn't where you want it to be, but maybe you maybe have too many options. Do I practice it slow? Do I just play the piece over and over? Do I work problem sections? Do I record myself? Kind of what do I do? And if you're not sure where to start, I made this episode to hopefully help you to boil it down to just basically making one decision. Okay, you're going to decide between one of two options. Then we can go from there. And I'm going to talk about both of the options, and then I'm also going to talk about how to kind of prioritize your strategies. Okay, you want to set a very high goal. So I think your wording is important. How you're going to say what you're going to do. It's just words, but I think if we can word it in a way that's very purposeful, that makes it a very high goal, you're going to set yourself up to achieve those things much better than if you just say, well, I'm just going to do something and hopefully it gets better. So basically, if you're having trouble with what to do with a piece, then I think it could be helpful to just choose between one of two things. Am I going to practice performing the piece? So that means just you're going to play the piece from start to finish, and you're going to pretend like it's a performance. So you're not going to stop. You're not going to work on anything. If you mess up, you're just going to go on, those types of things. Or am I going to get to know the piece better? Okay, now I want to talk about a few things about both of those approaches and kind of describe some scenarios where we can set ourselves up for achieving very high goals. So if you choose the first option, I'm going to practice performing the piece. Okay, words that I didn't use in this scenario are I'm going to run through the piece, I'm going to play it, I'm going to loop it, or whatever. Okay, because all these things imply you're just going to get it done. Now, it can be challenging sometimes to kind of gather up the required energy that it takes to perform a piece. If you're playing it for people in a real live scenario, even in a recording, I would say for most people, that's really not a problem because the pressure's on. Regardless of how well you can handle the pressure, you're feeling that you're playing this piece. It's live, it's happening now, so you're taking it very seriously, and the required amount of energy and mental focus is not a problem. For most people, they probably have too much of those things. Just, we get excited, right? But when you're in a practice scenario, it can be more challenging sometimes for some people to kind of bring that required effort and energy. So I think we want to use beneficial wording here, like practicing performing the piece, not to run the piece. Okay, if I run it, it just sounds like I'm going to get it done. That's not what we want to do. We want to, as much as possible, be in the mindset of performing. For me, that means I just want to do. I just want, and then I do. I don't want to think. I don't want to wonder. I just want to do. So if I have to think, that kind of tells me, well, maybe you don't know what's going on here as well as you could, because if you did, you could just do. With your mind, you could just say, do this. And then hopefully it comes out pretty close to what you had in mind. Now, you're free to kind of, in the back of your mind, take note of maybe things that didn't go so well, or things that you want to work on later, something like that. Some people would say that takes you out of the performance mindset, and I think they do have a point. So if you feel that way, then just record yourself. Then you don't have to worry about, am I thinking about the right things? You just hit that record button, do your thing, play the piece to the fullest of your abilities, and then you can go back later and listen and analyze and decide where you want to go from there. And sometimes it can be beneficial, I think, to practice performing a piece over and over. Okay? Now, you can work on the skill of kind of mustering up the required amount of energy and focus as you keep playing the piece. I think this is more difficult than it sounds. You could say, I'm going to play this piece 10 times in a row and set out to do it and do that. but only you can be the judge of, am I bringing the required amount of focus and energy each time? If you can do that 10 times in a row, I think that's absolutely remarkable. I find it quite challenging to do even a few times in a row. So you can practice performing a piece. If you're not going to do that, then you can choose the other option, which is, I'm going to get to know the piece better. And again, let me use examples of phrases that I'm not using here. What I didn't say was, I'm going to do slow practice. I'm going to play the piece slow. What I didn't say was, I'm going to work on the problem sections. What I didn't say was, I'm going to do listening, right? Because, all these things are fine and great and they're beneficial tools. But, they don't exist in a vacuum. I don't think they're super beneficial in themselves. Or even if they are, if we can just get our priorities a little bit more in order, set a more beneficial goal up there, then these things, they lend a lot more results because you have a clear picture of what you're working towards. So that's why I really like saying something like getting to know the piece better. Okay. Imagine the same thing if you have a relationship with another person and you want to get to know them better. Okay, it's kind of like that. You can think of probably some ways to do that, right? But everyone's different and they don't know you either. So you're going to have to try some things and see what feels effective, what feels like it's a good process for us having a relationship and me getting to know this person better. Okay, same thing with music. I think you want to treat music like you need to understand more of what's going on with music. The tiny intimate details, the connections that you didn't see before. And these are things that you will really base your interpretation on. And they are things that do translate to your listener, even if they can't point them out specifically and tell you what they are. So if you want to get to know the piece better, then you can say, well, generally, I know the piece, but it's just kind of rough and there's not a whole lot of connection, pretty much consistent across the board. Okay. Then you can say, I want to practice the whole thing slowly. So I'm making sure everything is as connected as it can be. And I want to get to know it on a deeper level in terms of general connection throughout the piece. So now you're on the lookout and you're looking for maybe melodic connections that you didn't know before. Maybe you were playing melodies or counter melodies that you weren't even aware of. But by practicing it slowly, making sure all the notes are ringing out and very legato, you suddenly realize, oh, there's these nice melodies here that are wonderful that I didn't even know were there. So I'm going to be sure that I make quite the effort to make those come out when I play the piece. You might say, you might record yourself and listen to yourself and say, yeah, really most all the pieces going very well. There's just, this one section or these couple of sections or these few groups of measures that don't sound like the rest. Okay, now I want to get to know these sections better so that they fit in with the rest of the piece. And if you're having trouble with a particular group of measures or a section, I think the truth probably is we don't really know what's going on there. I mean, we just don't know that section very well. And if it's difficult physically, if it's challenging, then that is certainly going to be a factor that distracts us from kind of thinking about things on a deeper level. What is this really all about? Because we're just thinking kind of the acrobatics. Can I get this thing done? Can I make it sound smooth? Those types of distractions. It's a real thing. But then, okay, you want to get to know those sections better, so you're motivated to do the things you need to do. Practice it slowly. Play the different voices. Make sure all the connections are going on there. Trying out different fingerings. Maybe there's a fingering change you can make that makes everything way easier. I mean, that happens sometimes. So you want to look for those opportunities. But now you can do the things that you need to do. You can do whatever is necessary to get to know those sections better so they fit in with the rest of the piece. And even if you decide just to do some listening, whether it's listening to yourself playing the piece, it's listening to someone playing the piece that you really enjoy listening to, or listening to a bunch of different people play the piece. you have to be in the right mindset for that. You can't just make a playlist and then push play and do other things and have all that stuff, seep into your mind. Maybe some of it will. But you need to be in the listening mindset where you're trying as much as you can with every fiber of your being to absorb what's happening here. And you're free to have your opinions, like, well, this or that is going on. That's something I want to incorporate, or that's not something I want to incorporate. But you want to relate to what's going on. I won't say understand. I don't think you can understand everything that everyone is doing, but you want to be able to relate to it. Have some type of reference based on your own experiences, where maybe you do feel like you understand what's going on, or maybe it just makes you feel a certain kind of way, so you know how you want to use that. But if you decide, I need to get to know the piece better, I'm not sure what to do here, so I'm just going to listen to the piece. Okay, now you're in a great mindset to gain things from the listening, and that will definitely help you know the piece better. If you're playing a piece of music that was written for a different instrument than the guitar, or even if you're playing a piece of music that is played on other instruments than the guitar, I would certainly recommend listening to it on other instruments, because it just blows your world apart in terms of, like, I am a guitarist, I play the guitar, I'm playing this piece on the guitar. Nope, all those things are they just happen to be that way. It just so happens that coincidentally you're playing this piece on the guitar, but it exists way, way, way far beyond that. It can exist virtually on any instrument. So when you listen to other instrumentalists play it and you kind of hear the advantageous affects that they can get on their instruments and kind of the voice that they have that's very different from yours, you can take a lot of things from that, and you don't really apply it. It will apply to your guitar technique, but I think it starts to seep in through you thinking about the piece more musically and more creatively, and accepting that it has its own life, it has its own existence. So you're just kind of seeing what you can capture on your instrument, how well you can do that. So if you say, I'm going to listen to the piece, well, good for you. You'll probably get some things. If you say, I want to know the piece better, so I need to do some listening, now you've put yourself in a whole different mindset. Hopefully you can take advantage of even more things, and you can get more return for your work. We all have a limited amount of time. We can't spend, a zillion hours doing these things. We have to do our best and then, move on to the next thing. So if you're not sure what to do with a piece of music, then just make one decision. Are you going to perform the piece, or are you going to get to know the piece better? And the last thing I'll say is, I kind of thought about this, retroactively, and based on my own experiences, I think I commonly make this decision. The way that I make it is I just see how I feel. If you don't have a super close deadline or performance coming up or something like that, you have some time, some breathing room to kind of make more of your own choices based on how you feel. I like to operate that way. So I'll feel very different from day to day. Some days I only want to play music. I don't want to do any technical work. I don't want to play anything slow. I don't want to listen. I just want to play music. So I'm going to choose that option those days. I might play the same piece a lot. I might play just a number of different pieces in a row. So if I feel that way, I go with that, because that feels like a proper use of the motivations and the energies that I'm feeling that day. Other days, I start to try and play music and I just feel like it's just not going well. So I think, well, I could try to do this more, get subpar results. Am I making these subpar results? Am I putting that into my fingers and my mind? Well, I don't want to do that. So on those days, I would rather get to know pieces better. There, I have more patience, because I know I don't feel like I can play music the way that I usually can. So I'll be much more patient, much more accepting of doing things like playing passages really slowly, trying out new fingerings, doing listening, trying other things to try and get to know pieces better. So I go with that. On days where I have a lot of energy and I want to play music, I don't want to play slow. I don't want to listen. So I just kind of go with generally how I'm feeling, and then I try and take advantage of whatever that is that I'm feeling. Because I do think for a lot of people, it feels like the instrument changes a lot from day to day, but of course we know the instrument's the same. It's us that feels different from day to day. So if you're not sure which, some people are very schedule oriented and they feel best when they make a schedule and stick to it. So if you're that way, then I guess I would do that, and you'll probably have great results. If you're not sure which one to pick the one that you feel most inclined towards that day. Are you in a kind of get it done, I'm feeling good, I'm firing on all cylinders, I have a lot of energy kind of mood? Then play the heck out of your pieces. Play it over and over. Play everything you know. Take advantage of that. Or are you feeling maybe physically tired? Maybe you've had a big practice day previously and you're not recovered yet. So you're literally not at your fullest abilities. Okay. Or for any reason, maybe just mentally. Sometimes I feel like it's too much work mentally to play my pieces at tempo. So on those days, I would say, just play things slowly, study things, do listening, things like that. Take advantage of the situation that you're in, because you might as well, because that's the way that you're feeling that day. So thanks very much for listening. Come join us at the A Guitar community and have a wonderful day.